known secret that not many people get. A lot of historians, a lot of political scientists, sociologists, people who work with archives are not often good at organizing their personal computers, their emails, using some of the skills that I'm going to discuss today. So what I want to do as part of this presentation is discuss under 3 items. First, what archiving is, how archives work, why is that a skill that you need, to also in rather vivid terms illustrate to you why archiving matters, and then take that sort of big, those big examples, the philosophy behind archives and archiving, where to put folders and how to gather them, and then how that applies under the second and third items of this presentation, how they relate to your computer, your personal computer, and to your personal emails, your personal or work emails. So what is an archive? What is archiving? An archive is basically a library-like storage for documents. It's the modern archive is the product of, as the name suggests, the modern age. The modern state produces a lot of paperwork. Modern organizations produce tons of paperwork. Corporations produce tons of paperwork. And you can't just, randomly stuff those things into drawers. You need to collect them, catalog them, and put them in proper storages, because again, these are your memories, right? Much as your brain stores your memory, much as your computer and your email stores your files or your emails, you need to do this in a fairly well organized fashion. Here's a statement from the U.S. National Archives explaining the logic of how to organize, government documents and why that's important. I'm going to glance through some of these slides. I will share these slides with you in a separate email with the AUIS student body in a separate email. So you don't have to worry if you miss any of these slides as we go about. You need good archiving skills, folks, because we, even at an individual level, produce tons of paperwork. As I said a moment ago, you can't just randomly stuff that paperwork into boxes like I do sometimes. You need to make sure that you put these things into their proper order. Why is that the case? What sorts of numbers am I talking about? As you can see in the current slide, about 25 years ago in the United States, nearly 300 million citizens and permanent residents spent 6.7 billion hours preparing documents for the government. And that's only for documents that the citizenry would submit to the government, petitions for a passport, passport applications, tax returns, things of that sort, freedom of information requests, just asking the government if they have a particular file about a particular matter. This number, so the 6.7 billion hours, don't include the time that was spent within the federal bureaucracy to continue its operations. And of course, we don't know how many pages of documents that the citizenry submitted to the government. No one actually counts them all and then puts the numbers together. But you can assume that it's billions and billions of pages. And that figure of hours spent on the citizens preparing documents, preparing paperwork to submit to the government, again, passport applications, tax returns, so on and so forth, came up to $11 billion, which cost the citizens of the United States a whopping 69 billion, almost $70 billion in the year 2014. So all of this comes at a cost. And I want you to think about the logic here. If people spend so many hours working for these sorts of things, then that's also coming to them at a cost, because if you're working on a tax return for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, 10 hours, on your tax return, and you want to make sure that you're not making any mistakes, because you don't want you don't want tax inspectors to give you trouble. That's also time that could alternatively cost you money. Instead of working on that tax return, instead of working on that passport application, you could be doing some work, some labor, and earn income. And the same logic should go for you. And in fact, you should always consider your time. And I'm going to go into this with respect to time management when I deliver a presentation next week. Every hour that you spend doing on unproductive activities is actually not only stealing your time away, but stealing your income away. Things that you could use, time that you can use more productively to earn income. So paperwork, managing paperwork and managing it quickly, knowing your way around your archives, your personal archives, knowing your way around your emails could save you a lot of time, folks, okay? And the reason why you really want to organize your personal archives, your emails very, very well is because these things, this is the picture of a physical archive, I believe, from somewhere in Southeast Asia. I wasn't able to get the exact information while I was looking for a good collections room, but these documents are stored in ginormous buildings, usually in the capital area of a country. But for example, in the case of the United States, remember those billions of pages I mentioned earlier? For example, the National Archives main building outside of Washington in College Park, Maryland, has a surface area of 3 Nou Camp stadiums. Many of you haven't been to Barcelona, but many of you are fans of Barcelona Football Club. And so you have a sense of how big Nou Camp, the main stadium for Barcelona, is. It can house up to 100,000 people. And the National Archives building outside Washington in College Park, Maryland, actually has an area of 3 Nou Camps. So you can imagine how big we're talking here. And at a personal level, if you come to think about how many files you may currently have in your computer, you may not be in a very different in a different framework, right? You may have your own ginormous virtual electronic Nou Camps in your computer, in your emails, and I want to show you how to manage that. It's not that hard. I can assure you, folks, managing all of this stuff, all of these files, all of these emails is a serious challenge, especially the initial setting up part. But once you get it right, you can find files very, very quickly. Now, government archives, a brief note, you don't have to worry about this part, but I know a lot of IS majors and government politics majors watch these sorts of videos, especially when I present them, because I also still teach for the social sciences department. Archives are often organized in a way that mirror images their own government. There's a head of state, a president or a prime minister, and under them there are ministers or cabinet secretaries, and under them there are various departments and bureaus and offices, down to the desk officer, down to the junior officers. And the way you need to organize your collections, your personal files, your personal emails is not terribly different than this organizational scheme. This is an example from my research. Years ago, I was working with the State Department documents in College Park, and as you can see, it starts with the Department of State. That's the foreign ministry of the United States government, and under that is the Bureau of Near Eastern and South Asian Affairs. It's still called the NEA, by the way. As you can see, these documents are from the early 1960s. So these are nearly 60-year-old documents that I was working with. And these are documents specifically relating to Turkey. So much like that, State Department, the Foreign Ministry, Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs, you know, office of the director for Turkey, and then Turkey office files, records relating to Turkey. So you're going to basically be doing the same thing for your personal files. Why is that important? As I mentioned a moment ago, I looked this up on my personal computer 2 nights ago, and it turns out I have 112,000 and change in files that are grouped under almost 4,000 folders. That's not an easy number to manage, and as you can see, it comes to about 172 gigabytes. My computer has very little free space left, and this is having removed a lot of photos, a lot of really old documents that I did as part of research. So how do you manage all of this? It's actually a pretty simple trick. Remember that scheme I showed you a moment ago from governments, you know, from the top towards the bottom? That's basically how you organize your files. And I will show how to do that by showing you my screen in a moment. Let me go back to my, let's close that. Office of, let's go back to my my general file. So this is what you see of my flash drive, because there are certain things on my work and home computer. I decided to go with my flash drive because it's pretty simple and it's pretty manageable, and there aren't confidentiality issues. While I was preparing for this presentation, I made sure to expunge everything from my files, so there's nothing that will embarrass any students who may have sent me a request for something or who got into trouble for academic misconduct. The only embarrassing things that you're going to see in this presentation are related to me. So as you can see, I've over the years decided to organize my files along these lines. Oh, and let me show you the general aspect of what I have. So, you know, this is AUIS, bank records, my personal websites stuff, a general Cold War history. That's my main area. I recently wrote an encyclopedia article for Oxford University Press. The National Interest, it's a website for which I used to write general commentaries. That was before I became dean. Now I don't really have time for it. But as you can see, you know, AUIS is at the top of my list. I put the number 1 in front of it so as to make sure that it would come on top of everything else in my files. So under AUIS, 1 AUIS, you have 1/2021 spring, because we're currently in the spring semester. So I'm not really interested in any of the other documents which I have classified, which I have initialed with the letter Z, because I want everything else to go down this way. See? So under, I'm sorry, I'm not going to show you spring 2021 because that's not the one I quote unquote cleaned up. But under 2020 spring, or spring 2020, as you can see, I have a variety of documents. I have a variety of folders, but the most important one for me in my thumb drive is obviously the ones related directly to my office, things that I had been working on personally, or I was asked by the vice president or the president to work on. So how did I organize those things? There are a couple of ways in which you can do these things. One of them is, as I showed you a moment ago, is to put the letter 1 in front of it, or the number 1 in front of it, or put the letter A in front of it. So if you, for example, put the letter A in front of this file, it's probably going to see. It brought it, oh, because it's got to do with numbers, yeah. So numbers trump letters. So they go as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and then it starts as A, B, C, D, and D, and so on and so forth. So if I wanted to take the document that came latest, and let's to make things interesting, let's do this as 05. Let's erase the twos, the zeros from the title of this file. So if I were to, as you can see, chronologically, this is the document here is the last document, right? But if I were to place a 1 in front of it and do an F5 to reshuffle them, see, now the latest document, the document that used to be at the very bottom of the pile, just came on top. So now it's at the top. But if you want to organize your documents, and this is one of the best ways to do it, you can do that chronologically using this method. And the best way to do that is to go for the year first, and then the month, and then the day, and then give a basic title to the document. That's the exit memo, the sort of farewell and keep these things in mind letter to me from our former director of student services, the wonderful Ms. Katie McGark. This was a general report that I had prepared for Dr. Wolfgang. Again, as you can see, it says draft 1. This was the first version of that report. And then I was asked some follow-up questions related to the report. So not only did I change the date on it, because I ended up working on that report 2 months later, but I also put in draft 2. So you can do that draft 2. You can say, which I used to do, version 1.1, version 1.1, and then, you know, version 2.0, version 3.0. That way, for every new draft that you work on, when you're working on a project for an entire semester or across several semesters, right? Many of you do your capstone projects. So if you were to, you know, give different numbers, different version numbers to the titles of your report, that way you can keep track of which version you're working on, or when was the last time you worked on the report. Because one of the problems that many of you face, and this is important, folks, so please pay attention, is sometimes, you know, you think you want to submit this document because it's the latest version, but because you only call it, you don't put a draft number on it, you don't give it a version number, you don't date the document, all of the documents have basically very similar sounding titles, and so you end up submitting, for example, for your Civ 102 course, the paper that you were meant to write for English 102. And that gets you into trouble. Then because your professor says, hey, this has got nothing to do with my course. And so therefore you're gonna get a bad grade on this assignment. Sometimes many of you forget to put proper identifications on the titles of your document. So you end up submitting sometimes things that you got from the internet, things that you were supposed to process, to read, to think about, to paraphrase, to cite properly in your papers, but then you accidentally submit something you found on the internet, and poof, Turnitin.com gives me a completely red paper, and then you get in trouble for academic misconduct. These proper archiving and cataloging techniques can really save you a lot of time and a lot of headache. It will get you out of trouble. It will keep you out of trouble. So this is important. Let me go back to my presentation. So what I said so far basically boils down to 3 or 4 bullet points. So under documents, this is, again, I use, as you may have seen, I use a PC. My operating system is a Windows, but the logic is not terribly different for those of you who use Chromebook or those of you who are Mac users. You will have a general, a big folder called Documents, right? And under Documents, you can create a variety of folders, much like the one I had for my for my main folders under my thumb drive right here. See? All of these here. And under that, so for those folders that you want to you know, come on top of the pile, you can put the letter A or the number 1 in front of it so that it will be the most prominent. The top ranking in the ordering, the top ranking folder in your pile. And then, of course, once you go under it, you can then organize your folders with additional names further, and then you can you know, put proper designations onto your file names in order to make sure that they're separate from each other, in order to make sure that you know which documents you're working with. And much like, you know, that chain of command in a government, sort of going down from the head of state to the most junior functionary, you can go from your documents super folder into folders and subfolders until you reach the one single file. Now, a very brief note on how you can go about finding these folders, because you also have to do that. One of the things you can do, and I'm sure this is one of the things you can do on Windows, and I'm sure you can do this on Mac and Chromebook, is the search function. So if you're looking for something specifically under the folder 1 Office of the Dean of Students, you can just look up things. So syllabus, obviously it's not syllabus, it's syllabi or syllabus. You can see if the syllabus that you're looking for is here. Obviously it's not going to be, because my work as Dean of Students does not really involve working with syllabi. But I'm pretty sure if I were to look up the word syllabus under AUIS, I'm going to find a good bit of documents that match with the word syllabus. Oh, look, there's even that meme I used to use. Let's take a look at it. Go down nostalgia road. This is one of my favorite memes at all time. Many of you, when I taught full-time, would send me questions about things that were already available in that were already written in the syllabus, or I had already communicated to you via email. And then you would ask me, some students would ask me that question, and I would send them back this meme, which was my way of saying, I'm not going to answer your question, but you know, this is you can find that answer yourself. Anyway, going back to the presentation. So that covers the first and second portion of this presentation. Yeah, let's see. So I even took a screenshot of how to go about doing it. Part of this. Okay, now this brings us to archiving, how to archive and process emails. This is mostly a cautionary tale, because as I'm going to show you, I can't show you my AUIS email, obviously, but I'm going to show you my personal email. Which is super embarrassing, because as you can see, my personal email, I currently have, yeah, because I like to use a space theme in on my personal email. So the number may not be too clear, but that says 1-50 of 241 emails. That is crazy. In the past, I would consider myself successful if I had not more than 10 email threads in my Gmail, 20 maximum. And so here you can see I have 241 emails, which looks like a mess. A lot of it has to do with, you know, just getting general emails from various vendors, which I don't really often read. But there are some important items, for example, such as things related to research. HDiplo is the main electronic forum for historians and scholars of international affairs, international relations. So this email, for example, tells me what the publication schedule of our forum is going to be. So this is not just AUIS. This is, you know, professors of international affairs, international history all over the world. They come together here. So there's a publication schedule. So this is something I want to look at later on. And so what do I do? I go click label here on the upper corner, right-hand side, go for HDiplo. As you can see, I have already created an HDiplo label, an HDiplo folder. Remember, I had folders in my computer and my thumb drive. You also have folders that you can create in your Gmail, especially for your AUIS Gmail, folks. And I want to read this later on, so I'm not going to archive it yet, but I'm going to mark it as unread again. And so furthermore, follow down. So this is an email from my good friend, Mr. Daniel Garner. That's my my credit card statement from my bank in Turkey. And then, as you can see, there's a lot more stuff going on. But let's quickly go through. Additional emails that I can just get rid of very quickly. Thrillist, Washington Post. I already read this one. It's about the tragic shootings in Washington last week. So continue going down. So as you can see, I was at 241. I already got rid of 20 emails. You can do this very quickly. So Cosmopolitan Globalist, this is a new news network of folks from all over the world, and they sometimes they often publish very good things, but it's a fairly long read, and I'm going to go over them, reading them at a later time. So again, erase some more. Let's see, why do people always talk about Hitler? Again, that's neither here nor there. Many of these things you can get rid of very quickly. So let's go back and show how to create a label. There you go. No, hold on. So as some of you know, I sometimes write for the news website, lmonitor.com. I have not, as you can see, read a good bit of the newsletters I have received from them in the last couple of, well, going back to at least 2-3 weeks now. So how do I go about organizing this and then cleaning out my mailbox? That's not from, that's from LinkedIn, not Almonitor. There you go. So here's what I'm going to do. Assume that I wasn't going to have something called a label for Almonitor. Now I do, but assume I didn't. What you do is click the email. So you want to create a new folder, right? You want to create a new label for your email. What you do is go up here. If you don't have a label for something, what you do is go up here and write a random folder name, all right? Almonitor. As you can see, I have Almonitor, but I want to call it Almonitor 2, right? So then you click that. You see it says create new. So you click that. It asks you to confirm the name, you know, and you can actually even create that folder. Okay, I think my Gmail, my personal Gmail just froze. There you go. So you can even select one of your other pre-existing folders as the mother folder, as the parent folder. So if I were to do that, I would go with something like, okay, Almonitor is going to be the main one, so I'm going to create that. And see, Almonitor 2. So here you have all of these things in your inbox. What are you going to do? You archive them. The second you click archive, see what just happened. Less than 5 minutes ago, folks, I started with 241 email threads in my inbox. Now I'm down to 199. And I can assure you, after erasing and getting rid of a lot of these emails, I'm going to go down to about 50. And once I process those emails, answers the ones I haven't answered, archive the ones I haven't archived, and occasionally read. I do read emails, as many of you know. I read them very carefully. I will hopefully bring down my the number of threads in my inbox to a very, very manageable level. Here's why that's important. Many of you make the mistake of not checking your emails at least once a day, preferably 2 or 3 times a day, so that when you receive important announcements, you are not informed ahead of time, and then when a deadline arrives, or when you act in a way in which you had received specific instructions, about, for example, wearing masks and things of that sort. Some of you in January and February were like, "Oh, I don't receive the email." Well, you actually do receive the emails, folks. But what unfortunately many of you don't do is either not check your emails or not organize your inbox in such a way that you don't see the new emails coming in, or after a while you feel you're just crushed with 500, 600 emails in your inbox. And you don't have to be in that situation. You don't have to be in a situation where you're like in my personal Gmail, right? What you can do is use labels, use folders, and archive the emails that you might need later on, and erase the emails that you will definitely not need later on, and then keep those on board. And these Gmail folders can be fairly expensive. And some of the ones, let me get to my settings. These labels can be as detailed as you want. They should probably not be as detailed as mine, but as you can see, I've got things like AAA. That's the that's the roadside assistant. That's the American Automobile Association, primarily the roadside assistance people in the United States. And I don't even live in the U.S. anymore. I've left there I left the place 5 years ago, but as you can see, I still have a few emails from them that I archived back in the day. Aile, that's Turkish for family. When I receive family news, or if there's something about my family, I store that there. Al Jazeera, sometimes I receive emails from them. I'd like to store that. Al Monitor, the news website. Al Monitor. I used to live in the Washington, D.C. area, so there were news about Alexandria, the town I lived in, and Washington, things of that sort. So you can go all the way down. As you can see, there are too many labels, I admit. There are too many labels in my personal email, but they're all very important and very necessary. I could probably narrow these down even, but this allows me to keep track of my email flow. But most importantly, it allows me at normal times. I haven't checked my personal email in a long time because I'm so busy with my AUIS emails. But in normal times, in good times, when my workflow is much more manageable, it helps me keep a clean inbox. I have maybe 5 or 10 emails coming in. I have to answer 1 or 2 of them, erase the ones that are not necessary, archive the ones I might need later on. And so I always keep track of what's going on in my personal life. And I'm very good with this on my AUIS email. Unfortunately, for obvious reasons, I can't show you my AUIS email because these days I'm dealing with a lot of academic integrity cases. So what I'm trying to say is don't have an inbox that looks like my personal Gmail inbox right now, but at other times, by using some of the things I mentioned as part of this workshop, you can keep a much more manageable email flow, and that would allow you to be able to see your emails on time at a time when they matter. Now let me go through YouTube, because I don't think I'm on the YouTube. Oh, there you go. That's our live presentation. Let me make sure that I've turned off my. There you go. So there's a few seconds of delay. I guess they want to make sure that I'm not using any inappropriate words so that they can bleep me out. So that basically brings us to the conclusion of my presentation for you. There are a couple of things to remember. I admit that these days, my personal email is not in very good shape. I'm the first to admit that. But as you saw, in 5 minutes, I brought down my email threads from 241 to 199. And if I had another 5-10 minutes, I could have easily brought that down to 50 because most of the emails I received junk. And then it would only have left me with maybe 5 or 10 important emails that I need to read or respond to, or read and archive, read and respond. And then that would have been it. So at the initial phase, doing these folders, creating these folders, separating the names of the documents, things of that sort, that takes time, okay? It's a lot easier, like you would, throw in a piece of paper in a box and not have to worry about it. That's easy. But then if you need to find all of that paper from that box, in this case, some sort of an email in your, an email from your Gmail account, or a file in your computer, then that might take a long time if they're not stored properly, if they're not archived properly. So if you pick up good archiving habits in your own personal life, folks, this can really improve your workload considerably, okay? It will enable you to keep track of your homeworks while you're a student. And once you graduate from AUIS, you go out into the real world, it would enable you to find files quickly from your work computer. And when your bosses ask you for something, then you can say, hey, I know where that is. Here it is. You can just poof, present them to your bosses very quickly. If the same thing goes for your emails. One quick trick, let me quickly show you folks this before I move on to the Q&A. You can search for emails, by the way, okay, using the search function. If you're not familiar with the search function in Gmail, make sure that you play around with it, like write some keywords and figure out some of the important emails that you think that you might look. You can do things like, there you go. That's my personal Gmail. Not a surprise. Some of you have my personal Gmail, so it's basically the same one as my AUIS Gmail. It doesn't matter. I receive plenty of, I send myself some, personal or things that I might use later on from my AUIS Gmail into my personal email, as you can see. So you can look it up. If I were to click return, I honestly don't know what's going to reveal right now, so I don't want to do it. But if you were to look up people's emails, then you can find the emails that people sent you. So it's okay. If your AUIS email account currently looks like mine, you have like 200 emails, most of which you didn't even read. See, 161 unread emails. That's okay. If you write up my name, all right. If you write my email address, if you feel that there are emails that you should have received from me but you didn't, or you may not have read them, you can use the search function and get access to that to those emails. Again, same thing with emails from the president's office, from Dr. Wolfgang, from your professors, from registration, from finance, so on and so forth. That's it for the presentation aspects, for my aspect of it, and so I will yield the floor to your questions. We have a few viewers, not a ton many, and that's okay. So let me stop sharing my screen and look around if we have any questions. Since I'm logged in from my AUIS Gmail. Any questions? Question mark. This is too meta. Someone dropped out, I think. We had a few viewers and then people stopped watching. Is it narcissistic of me if I click a like on this? I kind of want to. Last call for questions. The few viewers that we have. If not, I thank you. I will share both the PowerPoint slides I shared with you and the link to this video later today. Also, we have another presentation coming up by yours truly for next week on time management. Same time, same hour, same day, same hour, 11 a.m. next Monday, 19th of April. And I hope to see many of you there. Have a good day.